Hi, I'm Patty,
And I'm Al.
and we are professional lovers in training talking about episode 2 of Married at First Sight, season 10. So, tonight, 3 out of the 5 couples got married. They actually walked down the aisle, and of course, they show you all of the lead up to
The hoopla and
the nervousness, the doubt, the fear of the parents, especially, and just the whole lead up to the walk down of the aisle.
the variety of awkwardness for everybody involved.
I mean, and really awkward too, and it showed on in some couples more than others,
Hmm.
but everybody went through with it,
So
and
far.
so far, right? We still have 2 couples left, so. Just to kind of highlight a couple of things that were going on with the 3 couples as they were getting ready to walk down that aisle. Um, one couple, the Katie
Hmm.
and Derek,
Derek.
right? Katie and Derek. Um, Katie actually had an ex that reached out to her
Mm.
when he found out she was getting married at first sight, and put a lot of doubt in her mind about whether or not she wanted to go back to him. And it seems that in last week's episode, it was inferred that he really wasn't that into her. Um,
It sounded, from a guy's perspective, it sounded like a very typical move of someone who always wants his cake and eat it too.
mm-hmm.
And it was unfortunate because it did insert doubt in what it was that she was doing.
And I asked the question, should you go ahead and walk down the aisle if you have doubt?
And in all honesty, I thought that doubt is always a reality and something that you venture into because it's something new, it's something unknown, and even in the things that we feel most confident about and that we enjoy or we think that we would enjoy, there is an element of doubt that it could not be what we think it could be.
Did you have doubt?
In all actuality,
Oh, he was waiting a long time before he started answering that question.
no, actually I didn't. I mean, I was confident for quite a while. I mean, I was reflecting back on our marriage day. And that day, I did not have any anxiety whatsoever that I
I,
remember.
I didn't either, just that it was starting late, but
Yeah, well,
that was it.
yeah.
So, no doubt, no
No,
cold feet.
no.
You think a person, so I asked, do you think a person should get married with, I mean, there's cold feet from the unknown,
Hmm.
and then there's doubt.
Well, doubt, and again, this being an abstract situation because you're marrying a stranger.
Yeah, and everything is like heightened by 1,000%.
Exactly. And if if you don't have doubt, I don't even think that that would be natural in this situation. Now,
True.
let alone for the time that you spend with the person, getting to know them, and you make that decision to finally get married, you know, you have that thought of having lived the rest of your life with this person. And what if? What about? So on and so forth. I mean, the reality of life,
Mm-hmm.
sets in. And you just have to be committed to override and understand the fact that we are both imperfect individuals, that we have our individualities, and they may not necessarily coincide to a perfection that or a perfection level that we both are willing to accept. But again, it's the total picture as opposed to instances that you forge a lifelong relationship with an individual.
Well, you're talking about perfection. Actually, it's a great segue into the next couple, which was Jessica and Austin, because she made a comment. as she's waiting to get ready to walk down the aisle. And remember, they have not seen any pictures of each other. They have no idea what each other looks like. So, of course, for all the couples, the anxiety of what's he or she going to look like played a major role in their anxiety level. And Jessica says, I hope that he's tall and brown haired with a beard. And I'll try not to be too disappointed
if he's not.
If he's not. Well, and her husband was brown haired, fortunately, no beard, totally clean shaven. And that got me to thinking, are looks a deal breaker in, getting married? I know we all have our preferences. I had preferences. He happened to fill those preferences. But you weren't the only guy that I dated, so I didn't only date my preference in looks. So, and we know that on another season, on a past season of Married at First Sight, there was, two people that I can think of. The very first season, the bride was so not attracted physically to her husband that she actually sat in the hallway and cried about it. And then in a few seasons from that, another bride was completely not attracted to her husband physically, and not because he wasn't attractive, but because he didn't fit her preference.
Her stereotype, right?
Yeah, the guy that she always went out with. Now you got on Married at First Sight because apparently the guys that you always go after were never the right ones. Okay, but she the first bride who cried about the fact that her husband was not attractive to her, she got over it, and his character and personality won out. They're still married
with their second child.
With the second child on the way. Now the other bride, she just couldn't get past it. She just could not get past the fact. So now this one in this season, Jessica says, I hope he's brown hair with a beard, and he's brown haired more toward the blonde brown haired side, with no beard.
Yeah, clean shaven.
Thankfully, that didn't throw her for a loop.
True.
She was still attractive, but our looks,
Well, in reality, yes, looks do have a bearing on your likes and dislikes. But realistically, our looks will change. And our appeal will change.
Yeah.
But our love should grow beyond that, because it's getting to know the whole person and sharing that life that is, in my words, a deeper beauty than a superficial appearance.
Realistically, you must be attracted.
Understandable.
To something.
Yeah.
And if it's not all looks, then they've got a fantastic personality. True. That's kind of a code word, right? When my girlfriend was telling me about him before I actually met him, and she kept saying how nice he was. Oh, he's a nice guy. He's really nice. And ladies, that's kind of a code word for he ain't cute. And I did have to say, okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty. What does he look like? But I lucked out. I got blessed. But no, I think that you have to consider looks as part of the total package. That is the first thing that draws you, no doubt.
But understanding this situation where you can't have an expectation for the simple fact that you're meeting a perfect stranger. You cannot have a desired look, because it's not looks that
they're matching.
Experts are matching.
And they do that on purpose, because we often let looks get in the way of finding out who the person is all about, what that person's all about, and who that person is. And a lot of times being stuck on the superficial or the looks, some women really miss out. And it's great that the very first bride didn't allow herself to do that.
True.
Because she ended up with a great match.
True.
And they're still going strong as far as we know. So, Jessica also said one thing, and I think we can kind of end with this. She made the comment that love is an overused word. And that really stuck with me because that's very true. And we know that we said we were talking from the perspective of the book, Becoming a Professional Lover. And the first couple of tips that we talk about in the book is all about the real definition of love. What does love really look like? And Jessica was saying, we use love for everything. We love things. We love our shoes. We love our clothes. We love the dog. We love this food. So we love so many things. But when you're saying it to a person, as in I love you, what are you really saying? And I don't think couples go into marriage really understanding what they're actually saying from a biblical perspective when you say, I love you.
And it is an overused word, and we tend to use it so much that we dilute the value of it being said, especially to each other. And I know for myself, I even have to tone myself down from saying it as often as I do. Every time that we part in a phone conversation,
he says, I love you.
I say, I love you. And it's not that I don't, but I know that at times when it's heard and heard so frequently, if we talk 2, 3, 4 times a day, and I end it, I love you.
I love you.
I
have to say, sometimes I do think about that. Like, saying it that often, I mean, I know. And I love you too. But saying it that often, I mean, does it lose its significance? Because we do talk,
frequently. Yeah.
At least twice a day.
At least.
When, he's at work and I'm at work. So we were dating, and when we first got married, it was 3 times a day. It was always once in the late morning, once in the, midday kind of thing, and then once in the afternoon. So I have thought about that, especially sometimes when I don't respond. Mm-hmm. If I'm like hurrying up to get off the phone or something, and I love you, and okay, bye. And that makes me feel a little awkward sometimes because, I mean.
And at times I even force myself not to say it. I just say bye.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, never knew that. Don't ever not, don't force yourself to not say
only
it.
Because I know that, again, as we say, it's an overused word, and it's not to say that it makes me feel any different because I don't say it or do say it, but I don't want you hearing it to have less of a meaning when you do hear it, just because you hear it all the time. And I don't want the meaning of it to have a different meaning at any time. It's how I feel about you all the time.
Aww.
That wasn't meant for that, but it's
no,
true.
I understand what you're saying. And these couples, of course, they can't really say that right now because they don't love each other, because they don't know each other. Yeah. But let me give you an idea of what you're saying to someone what you're meaning when you say to someone, I love you. Love endures long. It's patient. It's kind. It never envies, never boils over with jealousy, doesn't boast or say, look at me, is not conceited, is not arrogant, is not rude or unbecoming in behavior, doesn't insist on its own way, isn't touchy, fretful, or resentful, doesn't keep count of wrongs, doesn't rejoice at injustice, doesn't fade out or come to an end.
And it's not conditional.
Now, really, how many of us know that that's what we mean when we say, I love you? Right.
Well, I do. I mean, it's for the long haul. I'm not saying that I
No,
like.
I mean, we know this for the long haul,
Yeah.
but did you hear some of the things I said?
Yeah.
Some of those things I said, we do not always be acting like that.
I mean, true, but love, not like, are two totally different things. There are times where you don't like me, I don't like you, or I don't like what you do, or you don't like what I do. But that doesn't mean that I love you any less.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
But really, I don't think of all of those principles of love when I say I love you. But that's what I mean. If you're going about it again from God's way, because that's the name of our book, Learning to Love God's Way. If you're going about it in God's way, those principles are how we're supposed to be loving each other.
True.
And some of those are easier to do naturally than others based on personality and how you grew up, the environment in which you were raised, how love was displayed in your households, as coming up. So the examples that you have. So all of those play into how we define and structure love.
True.
And so it becomes important that if some of those principles of love are easier to carry out than others, it doesn't make the others any less important. It just means we have a lot more work to do. True. Even after 26 years, we still have some work to do.
Oh, most definitely.
So, well, that's really all to talk about tonight as far as episode 2 of Married at First Sight. And next week, the other 2 couples will be getting married, walking down the aisle, and I think everybody will go on their honeymoon and start the process of learning
to know one another.
Right, learning who each other is. So until then, we hope that you have a great rest of the week and that you'll join us here again next week as we talk about Married at First Sight. Peace.
Enjoy.